All right, you guys. So this was a topic we kind of discussed the other day, and that is, when it comes to digital games, movies, videos. Well, movies and videos are the same thing. Music, what have you. Everything that's digital, you do not own. It's all licensed, right? So, of course, Steam, this bad boy, Valve, parent company, made big changes to game purchases. So we're going to take a look at that. It's an article from Game Rant. And of course, I did get these notifications when I booted up Steam like 2 days ago. So let's get into it. All right, first things first, I got to move my big head because I'm not used to being on that side when we're talking about this kind of stuff. But Steam did address the upcoming changes that California has made when it comes to purchasing digital media. That includes games. And of course, here it says the newly signed California law, AB 2426, will force companies to admit to buyers that digital games are sold as licenses. And Steam has already implemented this disclosure, which doesn't surprise me because Steam and Valve are usually pretty upfront and direct when it comes to purchasing items. Steam Shop carts will now inform users they're purchasing a license for a game. Okay, Steam has started informing users that any games purchased on the digital storefront will only grant a license for those games. This will most likely a preemptive measure for a forthcoming California law that will force storefronts like Steam to disclose that digital games purchases don't entail outright ownership for buyers. Well, what's crazy is I 100% agree because buying physical nowadays is the same exact thing because you got to download it, all the patches and everything, even though you have a physical game disc inside. And it goes the same for, I guess you can say the same for the Switch as well, even though it's a cartridge. For all those conveniences they offer, digital games have always had the caveat of simply being licensed that can be accessed at any time. One thing I always had problems with was when I started going from physical to digital. I remember the first ever digital game I bought was actually Destiny of all games, and I didn't like it, right? Because I didn't care for Destiny. I still don't care for the Destiny franchise. I think it's very grind based, and it's not very well written, especially the first one because let me tell you guys, the first one was we don't have time to explain the story. Go to Bungie.net for the rest, and I didn't care for that. However, this access is granted by game publishers and can be revoked at any time, flying directly in the face of traditional ownership. This is especially troublesome for online only games, as evident by Ubisoft's rendering of the crew unplayable after delisting it last year. Which this right here was a big to do because there are people out there that can set up their own servers and play with their friends. But instead, Ubisoft much rather delist it. There's been a lot of discourse about digital games ownership or lack thereof in recent years, and it seems to have reached the right places. This was the new California law restricting digital storefronts from using terms like buying or purchasing when selling digital games unless they divulge that the buyers are indeed purchasing a license. No, for the most part, when it comes to most of these digital storefronts, we're not purchasing the license. It's just ridiculous. The law will come into effect next year, but it appears that the leading PC game storefront, Steam, is already ahead of the curve, which they always are. Steam users have pointed out a new notice in their shopping carts that states a purchase of a digital product grants a license for the product on Steam. This is followed by a link of Steam's subscriber agreement. And this is the crazy part is like a lot of these agreements and purchasing stuff when it leads you to Steam subscription subscribers agreement, it's going to tell you they can revoke it at any time. Much like what Sony did at the beginning of the year when it came to like Naked and Afraid and that kind of stuff. Like a lot of random titles, done by Discovery, where they just outright were like, no, we're not paying any more for the licensing on that. We're going away with it because it's going to cost us more than it's really worth. It was like Naked and Afraid. It was like Mythbusters, stuff like that, Discovery programs. And with that being said, they turned around and Discovery and Sony agreed to part ways. And the people that purchased those on that storefront were told you're SOL, shit out of luck, when it comes to those items that you purchased. Why? Because you don't technically own them. You had a license to view them. More transparency regarding the complications that comes with digital game ownership is always welcome, and it's no surprise that Steam is the first to implement these changes. Many PC gamers consider Valve to be one of the most consumer-friendly gaming companies out there. Even though I've made a couple videos talking about how, me personally, I think Steam is usually ahead of the curve, and they're usually pretty fair when it comes to pricing and how they have a return policy, because you could play a game for 2 hours and return it, no questions asked. Where Sony, Microsoft, a lot of those other ones are like, yeah, you purchased it, you opened it, you're shit out of luck, you got to stick with that game because there's nothing we can do about it. Partly due to the helpful features regarding regularly added to Steam. The recent ad alert informing buyers of the truth behind their digital games further reinforced this notion, and it remains to be seen whether the digital gaming storefront will disclose the same thing soon. I wouldn't be surprised if other ones do. While the California law won't change how digital games ownership is handled, at its core level, it's still a promising step that keeps consumers in the know about their rights when it comes to buying digital games. But the question is, what are they? Like, as of right now, I believe it was the CEO of Ubisoft even said, like, listen, you need to get comfortable in a world where you don't own your games. So with that being said, this law is just telling us as the consumer that you don't own anything, right? And it's not changing the overall structure or overall format of how said games are being sold, right? And how said games are being handled, which to me, it's pretty ridiculous to even think about that they are going to do this, and it's not changing anything other than the full disclosure of, hey man, you don't own it. The overwhelming criticism levied at the Ubisoft for the crew situation will also hopefully encourage other publishers to ensure that their games are fully functional with or without internet connection. This right here, this last part, it doesn't matter. Because you also got to think about it this way. To run servers, to run all kinds of stuff like that, it costs money. If the game's not generating money, period, end of story, they're not going to continue to, what's the word I'm looking for, support the game, I guess you could say. And with that being said, if they're not going to support the game and it's an online-only function, it's going to suck for us. But I do think that instead of delisting it and completely yanking it from everybody's library, they should just leave it and allow individuals to set up their own servers so that they can play with their friends or other enthusiasts of the game. Let's go full screen. With that being said, the new law is cool and everything, but it doesn't really change anything. How the handling of, the whole situation is, it's not changing anything. We still don't own anything. It's just informing people you still don't own anything. And like I said, when it comes to Steam, though, Steam is one of the bigger ones at the forefront that is there for the gamers. I know there's people out there that are like, bootlicker. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, I've never had any issues when it comes to Steam. And it is what it is. But anyways, you guys have a great and wonderful rest of your day. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe down below, because every little bit does help out significantly. Y'all take it easy. I'll catch you later.